morning. I'd like to bring the September 20th, 2023 Planning Advisory Commission meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to ask everybody present to please silence or turn off your cell phones. And I remind those in the audience and those watching on TV that this is the first hearing of the rezoning and text change requests that are being brought before us today. We'll first hear a reading of the staff report for each case by planning staff and ask the applicant to provide a brief overview of the request. Then we'll give the opportunity for anyone else in the audience to speak for or against the request or to ask questions. And the commissioners will have any needed discussion about the case. Once a motion is made and seconded by the commission, a vote will take place and a recommendation will be given. The case will go back to the planning department for its independent recommendation. If a favorable recommendation is given, then the case is forwarded to City Council with the two independent recommendations. If the planning department makes a recommendation for denial, the applicant will have 10 days from the receipt of a letter stating the denial to notify the clerk of council that they're asking to be placed on the council's agenda. When the request or the application comes to council, council at one of its public meetings will hold the first reading of the case. Council will consider the case, review the PAC and the planning department recommendations, and hear discussion on the matter. And at a second public meeting, which is the second reading, the council will make a final decision on the case. Our first item today is to approve the minutes of the July 19th meeting. Does anyone have any comments or corrections? Okay, I'll ask for a motion on approving the minutes. So moved, seconded. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous with one abstention, so that's approved. Our first case today is REZN 08230159, a request to rezone 0.13 acres located at 3617 2nd Avenue. And the applicant is Justin Krieg.
Yes, sir. The general land use is inconsistent for planning area F. The current land use designation is single-family residential. Future is mixed use. It is compatible with the existing land uses. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to issuance of a site development permit if a permit is required. Property is served by all city services. The site shall meet the codes and regulations of CCG for residential usage. There'll be no school impact. The buffer requirements, the site shall include a Category A buffer along all property lines bordered by the RO zoning district. The three options under Category A are 5 feet with a certain amount of canopy trees, understory trees, shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, 10 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, and a wood fence or masonry wall, 20 feet undisturbed natural buffer. There's no Fort Benton recommendation, no DRI recommendation. The surrounding zoning to the north is RO, to the south is RO, to the east is GC, to the west is RO. 43 property owners within 300 feet of the subject property were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received no calls and or emails regarding the rezoning. Additional information, the applicant is requesting to rezone to build a single-family residence, which is not technically building it. It's being moved to that location. It's technically already there. The applicant is requesting a 10-foot front yard setback be allowed. The minimum front yard setback in SFR 4 is 20 feet. The purpose is for consistency with the neighboring houses.
Okay, so just so you're clear, to the south is zoned RO, but there are actually a bunch of houses to the south.
Correct.
Of it.
They're grandfathered in at this point.
Okay, and he just wants to make sure that the front of this house is parallel to the front of the other houses.
As close as possible, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners to staff? Okay, will the applicant please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and give us an overview of your request?
Good morning. My name is Justin Krieg, 620 Front Avenue. Like Mr. Renfro described, I've got a vacant lot at 3617 Second Avenue. It's currently zoned RO. I came to own it as a part of a larger project that's located adjacent to the north of the site, and really didn't have plans to develop this vacant lot. Previously, there was a house on the site, but it was demolished prior to my taking ownership of it. And long story short, about 3 blocks to the south at 3217 Second Avenue, this little shotgun house is part of a larger plan to develop a block, and a lot of small houses have been demolished, and I approached the owner, and they said that if I was interested, could move the house. It fits the lot at 3617 Second Avenue, the property that's being asked to be rezoned. Like Mr. Renfro mentioned, the owner where the house originally sat asked me to go ahead and move it off the property, and so thanks to Will Johnson and John and Jamal Williams and some others at the city going through getting permits to move a house ahead of a rezoning, understanding that I was taking the risk that you all may not approve this, and council as well. But like Mr. Renfro said, the house is physically on the site and roughly, within a foot of kind of where I've asked you all to think about it being rezoned and the setbacks where I'd like to go. But ideally, just use it as a single-family rental property. There are 3 large mature pecan trees that the neighbor to the south of me likes to get the pecans, and I didn't want to mess up those trees. And so pulling this house to the front to align with the remaining kind of Bibb City Mill houses along Second Avenue in that block, it does give that alignment with the street and the adjacent properties, but it also stays out of the mature tree canopy of the pecan tree in the back as well. So I think it is positioned correctly on the lot, if you all agree.
Okay, do commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
I do have a question. If you can tell me, what is proposed for north of that?
So, and John, I don't know if you've got the ability to pull up like the aerial shot, but just north of where this house is a small little parking lot that provides parking for the Bibb office and loft, which is 6 apartments and about a dozen professional office spaces.
Okay.
And that's a property that was renovated 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
That's his property as well, I
Right,
think.
right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we had
That's what I
rezoned it.
was asking.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine.
And you're not having any parking issues with the other property?
No, sir.
Okay, I remember when we rezoned it, I was concerned about
That's
that.
exactly, yeah, it's been a nice balance, because when the residents are there, it's not when the office users are there.
Okay,
And so it balances pretty well.
okay, good. Looks like we're getting the overhead shown.
And if y'all want to see, I can show you an image of kind of what the house looks like on the side, if that's helpful.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to get the map first, but sure. I think, yeah.
So obviously the vacant lot there is highlighted in red, and then the parking lot to the north. So, in my mind, it serves as a nice transition between what's traditionally been residential along Second Avenue and still is today, and that parking lot and business to the north. But that gives you a little indication of what the alignment looks like. It's a few feet back from the front porch of the house to the south. So this structure right here. So it kind of transitions nicely into the parking lot and still stays out of those pecan trees in the back.
And then if you get approval from us and from council, you'll put down the foundation and put it down?
That's right. So we physically moved the house there, but it's hard to see.
It's
from
up
the
on
photo,
blocks.
but It's up on steel beams.
Yeah.
So it's highly temporary and can be moved. But But yes, sir, my intention is not to put it down on the foundation until I get final approval.
Okay. Other questions?
Those houses are all serviced by the alley behind them, is that
Correct.
right? Does trash pick up on the back or on
It's
Second
on the
Avenue?
back.
It's
The
on
city
back.
uses one of the mini trucks, like you see
Ah,
downtown
Yep,
sometimes.
Gotcha, that was my question, thank you.
Okay, any additional discussion among commissioners or questions? We don't have anyone in the audience, so do we have a motion?
All right, regarding case number REZN 08230159, a request to rezone 0.13 acres of land located at 3617 Second Avenue. I make a motion that we approve this case based on the fact it's compatible with existing land uses.
Okay, seconds. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, John.
Okay, our second item of business today is REZN 923-01017, which is not a rezoning, but a request for a text amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance to clarify Board of Historic and Architectural Review language having to do with painting that's in the UDO. Staff?
Yes, sir, and there's a long definition. I'll just highlight the key differences. This is to amend section 13.1.1 by amending the definition of material changes in appearance. The biggest
And
thing is,
just to be clear, the reason for the definition of material changes is if you're making a material change, you need BHR approval, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
What this does is you're allowed, you can have your house any color you want to. You can put polka dots on it. BHAR has nothing, they can't determine anything about color because it's subjective. But something that is unpainted and gets painted, that is a material change. So if you have a brick house, natural brick, and they go in there and paint it in a historic district, that is a violation, that's a material change, and that's what they're trying to police. And it's just something that was just left out of the ordinance.
Okay, and BHAR agrees with this, and this is bringing
This is
bringing
coming-
the ordinance into compliance with practice?
This is their request.
All right. And just to be clear for the audience, BHAR approval is only required for historic district?
Historic
Right.
districts, landmark properties, and properties zoned with the historic zoning designation.
Okay, thank you.
excuse me, so adding in the exception, any painting or previous painted surfaces to the definition, and then as well at the end, that would be including walls, fences, steps, pavements, driveways, trees, or other aperture fixtures, excepting any paintings or previous painted surfaces.
So if it's a previously painted surface, you don't need approval to
That is
change the
correct.
paint
That's correct.
under the change. Okay, do we have any questions?
I've got one. How does this impact a new construction home? What is their process that they have to go through?
They would have to go through it anyway.
Okay, that was what I was
And if they wanted to paint the brick, it'd just be part of their overall
right. From the
presentation
start.
to build a new house.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Gloria?
Okay, this is in a historic area, right? Okay, and so they're painting the bricks, is what you're saying?
What brought this up is there's a house in Overlook that was natural brick, and it was painted, and that's a material change. When you're putting paint on the brick, that's a material change. But there was nothing in the ordinance that could make them come into compliance with BHAR.
So
If
the
it had
paint-
been, if it had been previously painted, wouldn't have mattered.
Okay, so they're painting like an upgrade to the house to make the house look better or something while they painted it?
It's just a change in material,
It's just-
meaning it's going from natural to having something covering it,
Right.
And it's in a historic district, so it needs approval from the board.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional discussion or questions?
That's it.
Would a commissioner like to make a motion?
For REZN 923-01017, a request for a text amendment to the UDO to clarify BHAR language in the UDO. I propose that we accept this.
Thank y'all.
Could I ask a question? I did leave out the setback on that first one. Can we
Yeah.
add that to that motion?
That's fine.
Okay, for the 10-foot?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and as far as new business, I see we have an item on the 2023 update to the 2038 comprehensive plan.
Yes, sir. You know, every 5 years, or every 10 years, we do a big update to the comprehensive plan. In between, we have to do a minor update because our short-term work program or our community work program is every 5 years. So that really has to be updated, but get a little more detail here. This is due October 31st of this year. As I just said, we fully overhaul it every 10 years, so in 2028, we'll do the full 2-year update. 5-year updates are required by Georgia Department of Community Affairs. In 2012, DCA changed their rules on 5-year updates. They required more than just updating the community work program. When we did ours in 2013, they were still in transition with their new rules, so we didn't have to follow them. We just did it the old way, just updating the short-term work program. This year, DCA now requires all aspects of that 2012 rule change to be reviewed and updated, so they almost want you to go through and do this every 5 years, but most folks don't have $200,000 to get a consultant and do it every 5 years. The new items to review, which we put on Trello, were the needs and opportunities. We updated that. We did not have any changes to our future land use maps. We have updated our community work program, and we also noted our accomplishments from the 2018 community work program, which is from 2019 to 2023. Our timeline, we've submitted accomplishments to the River Valley Regional Commission. They submitted to DCA. We began work on updating the 2023 community work program. We conducted an internal SWOT analysis of each planning district. Not much has changed in 5 years, primarily because of COVID. With everything shut down, it really didn't change anything going on in Columbus from 2018. Public meetings were set. We went to Northside on the 28th. The next night, we were here in this building. And then on August 31st, Shirley Winston Recreation Center, where we had a pretty good turnout. Obviously, we're here now with the Planning Commission to review and approve, hopefully, and then in October, we'll go to council with it. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
So you say this is on Trello. Were we notified of this? Were we supposed to review the plan on Trello? Because I don't know that I've seen anything about it before.
It is on Trello. It has its own individual card. It was under today's date that was supplied.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that I have any reason to object to it. I just feel a little awkward voting on something I haven't seen. Has anybody else taken a look at it? Is this new? Okay. Is it possible for us to give us, I know you want to get it in front of council soon, but to give us a couple of days to look at it on Trello and then approve by email, or does this have to be a public meeting approval?
It has to be a public meeting approval. We put it on there last Wednesday.
But as far as I know, none of us were ever notified that it was on there. We got the email with saying there's the case and there's the text amendment. So I don't know how we could have been expected to look at it or to know it was there. What's your timeline for council again?
It's October 31st. I mean, I guess we could bring it back on the 3rd, 4th? 4th.
Bring it back to us on October 4th. And are we going to have other cases for the 4th? So we definitely will have a meeting? Okay. And will that cause a lot of problems for dealing with council? You'll still have
No.
enough time to get approved?
Yes.
Okay. Then unless anybody objects, I'll ask that you do that. That, everybody agree? Okay. So commissioners should go ahead and look at Trello and review the plan, and then we can be ready to vote on it at our next meeting. Okay. Do we have any other new business?
We do not at this time.
All right. And then next meeting, October 3rd. Thank you. Meeting's adjourned.